Well, we got the lamb on the plate, and we got my name twin on the other side of the pond. We got Zecharya Yishai Levine in the house with the Camp Vibes hat at the bat mitzvah.
Man.
How are you doing?
Book of Shem, Kozman Beseder, Ani Mitsuyan, Makoe.
Kol tov, kol tov. It's all good. Well, let's start from the very beginning. So before you lived in Israel, tell us a little bit about where you were born, what your family was like, where you're from, or where you consider yourself from, I guess, and what you look like as a younger man.
Definitely was born and raised in North Minneapolis. It's funny, I just had a conversation with my mother last night, and we were talking about my cousin Prince. Prince is my mother's first cousin, another North Minneapolis resident, very, very well accomplished musician. Me and my mother were talking because she reminded me of a story when she picked me up from college. My senior year, my senior football season, I just sustained a fractured fibula, which derailed my chances of being able to play in some senior all-star football games and potentially maybe go to the combine, get drafted. And I was telling her, I wanted to be like my cousin Prince. And at the time, she said she humbled me like, you ain't nothing like your cousin Prince. And so why did this conversation come up yesterday, you ask? Because I just released a musical project, Kiss the Mezuzah, 20 records. And like 6 months previous, I released my first project in Israel, What's the Hector? And I told my mom, I pretty much just finished the next project and I plan to drop that a week later. She's like, you just released 20 songs and you're about to release more songs next week and you got a whole different project and you're already working on the next project after that project? I'm like, yeah. She's like, now you sound like your cousin Prince. So, I guess that lets you know a bit about the environment I came up in, where it's like greatness was relative because there's so many bars that have been set. My cousin Prince coming up under Uncle Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, who were producing at the time for Janet Jackson, Tony Braxton, Alexander O'Neal. I mean, you name it, so those are the titans I came up around. So the notion of what you were going to be in life, average might be good in a different community. You know what I'm saying? And so, I did have cancer as a kid, lost my eye, never had retinoblastoma. I mean, I had retinoblastoma, never had chemo, never had radiation.
How old were you when you
16 months old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and from there I went on to be a very well accomplished football player. Played on a state championship team that filled some very noteworthy names, beat some very noteworthy names, got a scholarship to college, excelled in football there, dropped my first mixtape there, came up as a rap battler, was crushing everybody in the area. Didn't matter your age, demographic, zip code, social security number, didn't matter. You were getting bodied. And, that competitive edge, not to skip around, but something that I'm mindful of even today, how I was saying to someone that sometimes what it took for us to get here is great, but what it requires of us to get to the next stage sometimes requires something different, so I definitely came up from an environment where being gritty, being determined, being relentless, being aggressive, was like what it took to make it out of what we call murder app, the chitty chitty bang bang. You always heard the bang bang, so we called it the chitty, and I'm from over north side life, no free lunches, never forget loyalty, ain't no freaking loser, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, so before, I guess, because this show is kind of about triumphing in general, over challenges in life, and they vary. You did remind me of one kind of funny anecdote about greatness being relative. One of my brothers, my oldest one, he's a very good student, very good test taker, very smart guy, and he scored very well on the PSATs. And so he was like a national merit. Yeah. He called my grandfather to sort of like, be proud of his accomplishment. And his grandfather goes, well, how many people get the same award as you do? like that was his, like out of how many
Yeah,
award.
right.
So I do, and then being the youngest of four boys, definitely on that level. I hear that. So then, but I do want to talk a little bit about it without, like, specifically what interests me about people in general is a lot of people face a lot of different things, but they have different ways of either failing and succeeding or just working hard, and that usually comes from a number of different things. So first, I kind of like to talk about the challenge itself, like where they presented themselves, but then also how did you, how specific, in a specific way, how you navigate. um
I mean, just Tachlis. I'm from a war zone, like they've been mentioned since George Floyd, like somebody's getting murdered like every day. I think we led the nation in murders in '96. They called it Murderapolis. Because of the social support systems there in Minnesota, we got a lot of families from Gary, Indiana, Chicago, and Illinois, Racine, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Flint, Michigan. We got folks that came from really bad areas and came to our area because they could get more money for food stamps. So, and most of them settled over north, where I was born and raised. I'm from, to me, I think my neighborhood could go shot for shot with any of the worst, they call it Little Iraq. They call it, Chicago Chirac. They call us
right,
Little Iraq.
right,
So, I think you understood, A, that death is in the air, that your margin for error is minimal, and that there's a bunch of people around you talking about what they could have done, what they almost did, what they were going to do. And for me, I was just like, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in sitting around the hood talking about what I could have done. I'm trying to do something. So I took an unconventional path. Me going to North Dakota wasn't the sexy pick. A lot of my guys were going to USC, Northern Iowa, Northern Illinois, you name it. I chose the University of North Dakota. Why? To me, it represents the University of Needed Discipline, UND. So it's like, I'm trying to go master what my weaknesses are, and I'm going to trust my strengths.
So, yeah. So why, or not why, but where do you think that recognition of your ND, of your need for discipline, came, as opposed to a lot of other people who didn't necessarily see it that way?
I think when you battle a terminal illness, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
anytime you're close to death, you have a different perspective, right? It alters your perspective.
Right.
Then after that, the number of deaths I encountered, whether it's finding my grandpa's body decomposed, one of my classmates getting his head knocked off by a tree because he had his window outside on the bus, or kids getting murdered in a shootout, or my cousin getting put in a wheelchair. I mean, you're aware, like, it's real things happening out here,
For sure, but
Basother.
again, and I don't want to, like, well, I do want to dig in the sense of you. Okay, so I think for sure having being super young and already your life being changed probably gave you
Yeah.
literally a different perspective and a different lens on life. Um, but you were able to sustain it, and that, I think that, like, I guess I'm just curious, if you have something that you think is you,
Yeah. So
very, very you,
once,
in that sense.
once there's a few sayings my father gave me.
Right.
He who knows how will always have a job. He who knows why will always be his boss. So it's like, I didn't need to know how to do everything. I just need to know why I was going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
my father also told me, he said, you can take it easy in the beginning in life and have to work hard. You can work hard in the beginning and relax on the backstretch, you know? And then I came up with sayings for myself, like be effective, not emotional, you know? My father used to always say, no, forward ever, backwards never. So this is a constant notion of like, there was a quote about my father when I was in seventh grade. My father owned a Tires Plus, a Dairy Queen, and a manufacturing plant, right? We're all in the inner city. So whether people think that's a big deal or not, in the hood, that's a major deal,
That seems pretty big.
And so one of the quotes, and he used to bring groups of high school seniors to Africa, to Ghana, and business people, male and female. So where I remember there was a quote they said about him, while other people ask why, they said Babington always asks, why not?
So he
And
just
so,
he liked to think. He liked to challenge the thought.
uh, yeah. So, I mean, it was just like, you can do whatever you want if you're willing to do what it takes. So for me, I got that. And my parents didn't give me any like special privileges. Like it wasn't like, oh, you got one eye, okay, you can sleep later, or we're gonna give you, it's like no one cares.
Do you do
Nobody
you have
cares.
do you have siblings?
I do. I have an older sister, and I got like a little baby brother. You know what I'm saying? That we adopted.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm curious, like, as a kid, so you told me kind of the positive, I guess, impact of it, and the fact that they said nobody cares. Did you care as a kid? Did you feel like
I mean,
this is
I just knew no one else was walking around covering their other eye, trying
right?
to see the world how I saw it. So I
Mm-hmm.
figured I wasn't gonna waste time trying to see how other people saw it.
Mm,
So it desensitized me to caring about other people's feelings. Like they don't care, I don't care either. Let's make moves. So it really triggered in me, like in my brain. I really don't. Once there's something that's already done, it's already happened, I'm emotionally detached. It's like it's already over. It's a
right,
sunken cost in business. It's like
right,
nothing we can do. So I don't care. Like it's over. Let's move on.
mhm,
Like it's over.
right. I mean,
A lot of
yeah,
people, grieve and go through 14 stages on this and that. I'm already on stage 14. Like, all right, let's move on. What are we doing?
right,
Because there's nothing we could do.
true. Yeah, no, I mean that's yeah. So I guess in was there ever a point where that or even like slipping into the negative into sort of the negative behavior where that became a question or were you sort of all like or were you sort of kind of always with like moving down super ambitious because I don't know in the little bit that we've chatted I mean it started with a business call and
Yep.
and then from there we've had short conversations but they've all been relatively either business or friendly positive but was it always that like there was no wavering in the camp vibes.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, nobody cares. So I don't care. And I know what I want to get done. And outside of that, I don't care. And what do I got to do to get there? I don't care. Like, one thing of having one eye, right? So you have 50% less depth perception, probably, maybe if any, and
Hmm.
50% less peripheral vision. So peripheral vision means what? You see 50% less of the stuff on the side, statistically. But now what do you do with your other eye? Do you take that eye and browse the peripheral vision on the other side? No, you got to use that eye to focus on what's really there. So I probably have like 85 to 90% less peripheral vision,
Right.
meaning I don't focus on what's on the sides or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, fair
It's
enough.
like I got to
Distractions.
snipe.
Yeah.
I got to snipe. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got to see where I'm shooting at.
Okay, so so that made me think are there moments in your life that were like kind of those checkpoints where like it sounded like UND was kind of like how did that manifest? You said like you needed discipline. In what ways did you need discipline and how did that sort of provide it?
I mean, when you're from an environment where things are much more like emotional and like talent as opposed to like structure,
Hmm.
and maybe you got guys that are good but not because they have talent, that means they're disciplined enough to try to do the right thing over and over. And so I just saw that I think I'm very observant. When people are dying, you learn what survival. I think Malcolm Gladwell talks about in Outliers that there's like two things that happen when a bomb drops. You have the people that are shell shocked, and you have the guy who's like now is not afraid of death. Like he's like, yeah, I've already seen bombs dropping in legs and arms. Like I'm not phased.
Hmm.
So I realized, to me, what was the trend was that, like, if you stay around a place where most of the people are not headed the same direction as you, you're not gonna make it to your destination. Like they just don't have the same urgency, sacrifice, schedule, awareness. I mean, I saw countless guys that lost their scholarships or didn't make it or whatever because they were still in the hood. And I'm like, I need to go somewhere where I'm close enough to still be able to get home, but like far enough away to get done what I got to get done, you know?
Mm-hmm. And so
And North Dakota was that.
and was football the goal, or was it a means to an end?
Football allowed me to hit people in the mouth regularly.
Right.
And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a means to get out this rage. Like, so,
And
you know,
now,
all
and
day I'd like make a list. People that offended me, people that bothered me, I'd like make a little list, a little checklist. Like, all right, that's 11, that's 12, that's 13. And when I get to practice, I put the little number on my wrist tape, and I go out there and go collect. You know.
nice. And so how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that rage now that you're not playing football?
Oh man, more davening, more learning. You know what I'm saying? Ma. Tada.
And okay, so football, so football gave you one, I guess, one major.
Plate. Yeah. Football gave me what?
So football gives you kind of, I guess, one important outlet for that, and then when does Judaism become
So I
the?
mean, so Judaism is the ultimate expression of relationship with Hashem. So I was always on those one-on-one FaceTime calls with the boss, you know, and he was like grooming me for a deeper relationship, grooming me for, I just gotta let you guys see, you know, man. You might not even do it justice, man. That's a fresh piece of lamb off the grill, you know what I'm saying? But you know, he was grooming me for a deeper relationship, right? Because I guess if you're a person that's involved, and I don't want to say like the spotlight, but like you're visible, then you have responsibility. You know, to whom much is given, much is required. So it's like if you're gonna lead people some way, let's make sure you got the right directions. So I was always very, very in tune on like I need to make sure that I'm not sending people the wrong way.
And
so it's just a constant dig, and an athlete triggers in you the constant desire to want to get better, 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 right? So when you apply that same pattern to God, want to know more, 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 want to know more. Well, there's really kind of only one track that really, you know,
gives you that, yeah,
is a infinite highway, and that's the Torah.
right. And the learning that happens with it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But was there, I guess, so okay, so that's broad strokes. What about like specifically
Narrow
how?
strokes. I grew up feeling
Yeah.
and knowing we were the lost tribes.
Okay.
So that's already where I was holding inside my spirit. And as I encountered things I felt to be inconsistencies, I said, when I get older, I'm going to learn how to read Hebrew. And I'm going to be a superhero like Abraham and Moses. You know, I didn't know what that meant, but that was probably my most early Hisbodedus moment of like just honest crying out to God. And you know, when the thing everyone should be wary of, you speak to God honestly and genuinely from your heart, He's listening. You know, and you can expect a package in the mail, you know, the next day or whatever. Like, oh, I heard you. You said if you do this, I promise I'll never, or you know what I mean, like whatever it is like, yeah, I heard you, I got you. You know.
And was there a specific? Okay, well, actually, I had two questions. Number one, was your family? I mean, so I'm assuming your family was religious. You know.
Yeah, I mean, to varying degrees. My mother's mother died when she was 6. Her aunt, who was like her mother, did convert to Judaism. So my mother had like a high necklace that she was wearing. You know, maybe when I was born, maybe after, whatever the case may be. But that was like a close proximity thing. You know, my father's side, He's from Nigeria on his father's side. There's a lot of talks about Nigeria and the Yoruba people or the Igbo people being of the lost tribes. Then my grandmother, my father's mother, was from Louisville, Kentucky. There's talks on that side about us having, Jewish blood, as some of my country cousins would say in the most country way. I wasn't aware of any of those things.
Right. That was my other question, was when you said I was part of the lost tribe, were you talking about like Black people everywhere, or your family, or the fact that your family comes from Nigeria?
I mean, I feel like African Americans from the transatlantic slave trade are like the lost tribes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of potential for a good percentage of them, for sure, because they're coming from.
And again, obviously, you can say with mating and breeding and this is not whatever, but I'm just saying, like, I guess it's almost like this: if somebody's saying, like, "Who's hungry?" You don't got to eat the food, but anybody that's hungry is going to get up, like, "Hey, I want to eat."
Right.
Well,
I mean, yeah, so. And I'm pretty close with. I used to spend a lot of time with Ethiopian Jews when I was in Israel, and
shout out to my folks I'm with right now. Shout out to Yaso. Just had a nice bar mitzvah. Nice. You know what I'm saying?
Nice. And in those stories, and also speaking of the lost tribe, like my close friend, like his grandfather was like one of the rabbis who was brought in from Ethiopia to sort of talk with the rabbinate in Israel to kind of make sure that it was all kosher, to check the hechsher.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's, it's so crazy because it's almost like every statement you make is already old news. Like there's so much unraveling and happening each day that it's already almost like, and that's just how fast the world is now. So I guess it does to me mean something different when you have those who have been like on the path or were aware or had an inclination, started traveling earlier. You kind of like got that flagship dynamic,
Mm-hmm. So I guess because you've pointed out the things that have worked for you, and I know that you're someone who talks to a lot of people. I see a lot of Jewish kids talk to you. I'm sure you talk to a lot of people back home. Anybody, what is the thing that you like to share in terms of like, all right, I've been through it, I've seen it, I know what it's like both environmentally, I know what it's like personally, from a body standpoint, from a mental health, like what is, how do you keep the camp vibes?
Be honest with yourself, as you're drinking from that Seahawks cup. In football, they talk about halftime adjustments. Halftime adjustments are crucial. You got a game plan. You come into situations with a game plan, and then like halfway through, you figure out what's working, what's not. And the difference between like champions and losers is like who makes those halftime adjustments. So in your life, you got to like make those adjustments to try to be honest with yourself. What I appreciate about sports is if a guy missed a tackle, they would just say you missed the tackle. Like no one was being mean to you or talking about your mom or, it's not personal. You missed the tackle, and that objective evaluation in life can, I think, do priceless things for a person. If you can objectively evaluate yourself and not get caught up in, well, but I really tried, or bro, no one cares, bro. Like you missed the tackle. Like, make it happen next time.
Right.
Right. And I think that with myself, that's how I govern myself. And I think it's allowed me to keep moving, Also, another thing is cognitive dissonance, how one responds when confronted with information different what they believe to be true. Very important. Very important. Because you can only go as far as you're willing to accept. So if you believe you already know everything, okay, there you go. That's the end.
I heard one guy say, he goes, if you can't go into a discussion thinking that you might be wrong, then you're kind of already not having a discussion.
First of all, it's not a discussion. Yeah, it's a speech.
Yeah. And that's, it's very frustrating. I think sadly, even though we have more information than ever before, we seem to care less about, being able to discuss ideas for more than 20 seconds or we're done,
I think what social media has done is created a heightened ego of self and a greater insecurity of truth. So it's like, I'm this, I got this many followers, I got this many likes, or I this many people see me or whatever. And then it's like, and you're more sensitive to anyone realizing the truth, like, but you're homeless.
Right.
You got 11,000 followers, but you don't have a place to sleep.
Right.
You
Right.
know, are you successful? You know, it's like, for sure in some categories people would say, but if we strip away down to the basic operating needs, the guy with a house that's got 30 followers or whatever, he's way ahead. Now, maybe the guy with 11,000 followers is chasing his dreams, and maybe, you know what I mean? It's not to take a snapshot also and judge someone, which I think this is more of a more judgmental periods in history because you can see so much
Mm-hmm.
and everyone feels like they have a voice. So, you know.
I mean, I think we're getting, but like you're saying, we think we see so much, but what we actually see is a snapshot, or what we see is a selfie, or what we see is a meme, and there's so many more layers to pretty much every story. You know, your story, any
Yeah.
story. So, I guess, um, yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time.
I'm probably the first guy to eat fresh lamb off the grill but you know, they say Yom Shishi in Yerushalayim, whether you're in the Shuk or in Ashdod, man, it's a good time, man. The Kedusha of Shabbos is already like hovering, and you just feel like you wanna make brachas, you wanna elevate the soul, you wanna, you know, be in good spirits, and you wanna be together with people as you prepare for, you know, your date with the bride, you know.
Amen, amen. Well, I appreciate you taking the time before your awesome weekend in Israel. I wish I was there.
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom coming up,
Shabbat
and
Shalom, actually.
yeah, we will talk again soon. Be well, name twin.
Amen, amen, amen. All
Zecharya to
right, bros.
Zecharya. Be well.
By the way, since we're doing this podcast, people will see. Last time I saw, you know, the name twin, she was debuting a horror film in Jerusalem in Rahavia, which I
Oh
thought
yeah.
had some very, you know, well done, a lot of funny moments. You got to be careful with those people that knock on your door selling knives, man. You know what I'm saying?
Amen to that.
Uh, if
And
someone comes to your door selling knives, make sure you got a gun. You know?
true that, because no one's
Yeah,
gonna care if you make a mistake. Oh
exactly.
yeah, oh yeah. Last thing, and I think I know where it'll go, but why don't you put the plug in for what you're working on now, where things are
Oh yeah,
going,
yeah, yeah,
what to
yeah.
look
That's right.
for. Yeah,
Just dropped Kiss the Mezuzah, 20 joints. I think it's Harif. You know what I'm saying?
Arif is
Also,
spicy.
before that, that's right. Before that, I dropped What's the Hexer on all platforms. L'chaim OG. Also got a podcast coming out with Rob Nissim, The Middle Road. And I'm already working on the next project. So, Harvey's Raw Feta Cheese due to be released hopefully in the next week or so. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to get that out of the way because I'm working on the next one. Torah over everything, man. 10 toes down, you know? So it's all about trying to work off my tab for the boss. I appreciate everybody for their love and support.
Thank you so much for the time. Hope to see you in person soon. Be well.
Let's get it, bros. Nice hat.
All right, thank you. I knew you'd like it. I
All
wore it for you.
right.